Okay. What I meant to do. This is what I meant to do.
I knew that class was coming at 2:20 and it still scared me. I knew it.
Okay, Jerry, we are live.
2:18 when it came, yeah.
We can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, good enough, thanks. Virginia, before we start, when are we gonna do the interview for our
Well, that's what I was saying. I know that the vote I have under new business, but I thought we should do this
I'd like to
now.
move it up first if we could.
Yes, yes.
The after our pledge of allegiance.
Yep.
Okay. Good enough then. Good evening and welcome to the Borough Park Summit Council meeting, October 4th, 2023. In attendance, Mr. Beston is absent. Ms. Lopez,
Present.
Ms. Simmerl,
Present.
Solicitor Hayes,
Present.
Mr. Mitchell,
Here.
Mayor Kelly,
Here.
Ms. Kehoe,
Here.
Mr. Jenkins.
Here.
Ms. Shields.
Here.
And Chief Yarns is absent this evening. We'll stand for a moment of meditation. Pledge of allegiance. Mayor can lead us in the pledge
All
of
right.
allegiance.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item on our agenda is going to be our interview for our vacancy on our. We have two candidates who have applied.
No, we only have one. I did forward an email out. Dave Jenkins withdrew his
Okay.
request for consideration. So at this point, and I did at Bob's request, I did reach out. We put it wherever we could. We spread word. I made phone calls and there was nobody else that was able to consider it at this point.
Okay,
So we have Merle, which I think we're very lucky to have. So
absolutely. Merle, would you like to
Sure.
take the podium and you can introduce yourself to council and the table? here?
Sure, everyone. Just want to warn you, right? It's always dangerous to give a professor the floor. Right? Anyway, my name is Murli Rajan. I am currently the Associate Dean of the Kane School of Management at the University of Scranton. And prior to that, I was a professor of finance full-time, teaching courses in finance, investments, and so on. So I've lived in Clark Summit with my wife and our kids and our dog Daisy since 2002. Now before that, don't hold this against me, I lived in South African Township.
we'll forgive you.
1990. A little bit of background on the family, so sure. So we have 3 kids, all grown, in the house, and that probably explains why I have a bit more time to devote. So I admire what all you do to devote to the borough. So my oldest guy, Paul, is married, has a little baby boy, and lives in Manassas, Virginia. Our daughter Isabel is married to Jack and lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. And our youngest guy, Matthew, lives in Phoenixville, which is outside of Philadelphia. And he works for SCI Investments. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit of my work history, perhaps. Okay, so in addition to, I still do teach one course, so I don't get too rusty. But I also serve as an expert witness in economic damages cases. And I also serve as a consultant for the CFA Institute, Chartered Financial Analysts Institute. And previously I worked as in the Treasury division of a manufacturing outfit. This was in India, and I did my undergraduate degree in New Zealand. So I also worked after graduating in the audit division of a public accounting firm. So
I think there's one other piece that really needs to mention, and that was that he has had your position. He filled in for, who did you replace, do you recall? I don't recall.
I should remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Somebody-
don't recall. Yeah,
But somebody stepped down from council and he was appointed to finish their position. So he spent almost a year on council and has a good perspective of what's going on here as well.
Dr. Rogel, thank you so much for putting your application in. I see you have a PhD in finance.
Yes, I do.
It's a very, very impressive resume. And I guess you want to be on Arwa and do you have any reasons why? I mean, it seems like it's just.
well, so a couple of reasons. Part of it is, family life as it is, it's opened up a little bit. But more importantly, I love living in this community. So, it gives me a chance to give back. When I was in council, and I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about wastewater treatment, but to my way of thinking, it gives me another way of giving back in any way that I can. So I heard that, who was it that's stepping down?
Paul Murphy.
Paul Murphy, right? So Paul was a finance guy, so to the extent possible.
Right.
I'm happy to help.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for applying.
My pleasure.
Well, does anybody have any other questions? for Mario? I think you have covered every base there.
Okay, very good.
Really,
Didn't
thank
take up too much of your time, right?
No, no.
So,
thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
and Dr. Rajan's our only applicant.
Yes.
Great applicant is. Can I make a
Yeah.
motion to, we do that now or is that?
I
Sure.
would think we should. Do we have a second?
One second.
Okay, on the question? All in favor? All opposed? Favor unanimous, Mario. Welcome to our hour. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you talked to Laura.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Next item on our agenda is the approval of our agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll motion that we approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second
I'll second.
on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Favors have it 6-0. Approval of the minutes, we have none. Public comment, we have none. Police report. Do we have a police report, Mayor, or?
Well, there's one that was provided in here, not a detail regarding any specific thing. This is the usual summary sheet of the year-to-date stuff.
Okay.
I don't know if you're going to hear any of that. But, as you know, our chief is relaxing, so we'll see.
It looks like we have our new part-time officer had a couple of shifts here.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see what. Yeah.
Training.
That's going well.
From what
Yeah,
I
he seemed like
understand,
a
yeah.
nice fellow, really. There was some alarm incidents in the month of September. Community Bank, Citizens Bank, Midway, and under the Parks Green jurisdiction, North Abington Road, 212 North Abington Road, and 115 Maple.
Does anybody have any questions for our mayor? Thank you for the report, Mayor.
All right, thank you.
We're not gonna let him go early, are we, like we do the chief?
Yeah.
And that's it, Dave, I'm on.
Okay, under bids and quotes, we have none, Virginia.
No,
Okay.
I would expect, there will be a number next, month because we have a number of projects. We're gonna try to get out repairs from the flood that need to be done before the end of the year for the weather change.
Okay. And our next item on the agenda is our vendor payments.
No treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report. we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Kathleen. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ronnie, on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Figures have it 6-0.
While we're talking about that, in today's mail, there was a check and I did forward to you guys, we got a rebate from, our workers' comp insurance for 17,000. It's just been deposited into the general fund. And I just wanted you to think about it. If there's any special allocations you want to keep it in mind and we'll talk about it. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Virginia.
Pay the bills.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see. Okay, do we have a motion to?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ronnie. All opposed, favors have it 6-0. Under all business, we have our sewer report. And we
I'd like to
have-
introduce myself. Grateful and happy to be back. Very kind, very kind. Yeah, so kind of tons to catch up on, like minutes and all that, but Virginia, Nicole, Sarah, they killed it. They just jumped in and I don't know how they did half this stuff, honestly. So they moved in and so now just, back.
So in other words, what you're saying is it took 3 people to do the job.
Oh, I couldn't say that. They did their jobs too.
Thank you, Gary. Remember that.
Yeah, so anyway, so we got everything taken care of with the shut offs and only one was shut off. And at the end of the year, so like towards the end of December, I'll do the last shut off of the year. Just to make sure we have everybody, because I was gone for almost a quarter, things fell behind, so I just want to get everybody on the same page.
We actually had like 5 people that were scheduled for shut off to the point where the water company put the notice on their door. And in a panic mode, they came running in and finally made their payment.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
It works hand in hand.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
So anyway, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you. Under all business,
Jerry, under all business, if I can interject here, that check that we received from the insurance is a rebate. We normally would have put that in capital reserves, and I would, at this time, I'd like to see that rather than go in the general fund where it's just going to get spent willy-nilly. I'd rather see it go back in the capital reserve fund so that we bolster that up a little bit. It's not as big as what we have normally received. However, I do agree with what the email was that Virginia said, that due to the fact that Eric is off on Heartland, we probably may be seeing the last of the rebate checks for a while. So I, in that note and with that thought, I'd like to see that $17,000 check get put back into the capital reserve account. And
Dave,
I'll make that a motion. Go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I generally would agree with you on that, but unfortunately, we did have some unexpected expenses with that big storm in September.
Okay.
At DPW, we had overtime, we had repairs, so I think we may be, kind of lining on vapors at the end of this budget this year. So we may just want to have that just in case. And if we have it next year, maybe we could put it in next year for capital reserves if we can balance our budget going forward.
Well, the thing is, if we really need to go to it, we can always go to it. But if we put it in the general fund, it's just going to find a way to get used up for not necessarily other things that are important. So this way, if we keep it in the capital reserve, we have to have a good reason to get it out of there. And I think in the best interest of the borough, I think it would be the right place to go.
The capital reserve funds generally for our capital projects, things that last over a year. So I don't know if, expenses to roads and all that might be covered in, but in my opinion, I think we wait and see if we can get to the end of the year and go from there.
Okay.
Well, I don't agree that it goes in the general budget and the fund. I think it should go to capital reserve.
I think we always cash it in our general fund and then move it, correct?
Yes,
So
yes.
it always starts there.
Yeah, it's in the general fund. It was deposited today.
So
But the thing is to whether we move it, allocate it before. Yeah, or not.
And I
We
do,
can-
I do have to give the finance committee credit because they do watch every dollar that comes in, goes out, and we're extremely cautious as to the way funding is spent, so. I would think I go along with Bob and Josh and say, let's leave it in our general fund. And we're working on our budget and see how things do pan out.
As a compromise, I could put it on the agenda in November just to revisit.
I think that
That's
would.
fine.
Dave, is that okay with you?
I'm gonna get outvoted anyway, Virginia. It really doesn't matter at this point. I just felt it was a bad move to put it in the general fund and I think there's more discretion with it being in the capital reserve, but I'm gonna get it. I'll be outvoted anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
I'd like it to land in capital reserves as well, but I think my position, and I don't want to speak for other people, but it seems that we just want to wait and make sure that those extra expenses are not going to be too much, because we can't pull it back out of capital reserves to cover an increase in operating expenses. That's the risk. It can't go there and come back. It can only come back for a capital expense. And the concern is that there may be increased operating expenses because of the storm. We wouldn't be able to pull it back out of capital reserves at that point. So I think leaving it on the agenda in November keeps it front and center in our minds and make sure that we, again, consider it explicitly.
I would be willing to leave it there till the end of November, and if it's not used, then put it back in capital reserves. I would go along with that.
Okay, we'll talk again next month.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda is the update on our trash conversion ordinance.
Yes, we need to make a final decision on two things so that we can draft an ordinance for November, because the first bills we want to get out in December. We have to have an ordinance before we do that. So the finance committee, I know, met and talked about the billing being for, well, we were saying 16 a month, but since it's quarterly billing, it would be $48 a quarter. We need to decide if that's acceptable. And the other thing we were talking about is putting a line on whether or not small businesses or multiple units are in or out of the sewer contract. And I think from reaching out to other communities, I checked with Scranton, South Ave, Newton. Generally speaking, they say if there's the line is either at 3 or anything above 3 units, they require a dumpster and they cannot participate in the trash thing. Anything below that is in. So I would like to ask you guys if those numbers work for you, we can get Mary Claire working on an ordinance.
So we're just gonna we'll give her the guidance this time around, and then next month we'll vote on the ordinance and it'll get notice and things like that.
Yeah, next month you'll actually have the ordinance, the final one to review and put up for advertising and vote.
Okay.
Okay,
So above 3 tenants, then they kind of just.
correct.
Yeah.
3 units, 3 units will take, 4 units, they have to have a dumpster. I think that's what most of the communities tend to fall at. So
Okay.
I guess it's worked. So not knowing what else to expect, I'd say that would probably be a good line.
And that takes the discretion and we don't have to deal with the case by case basis. It'll just be.
Correct. This is,
Hard.
once it's in the ordinance, it is what it is. There's not exceptions. There's not, proving that they have a dumpster so they don't have to pay, because we cannot budget appropriately without knowing who's going to be participating in this program or not. So, okay, I will get working with Mary Claire on that. Thank you so much.
And then.
So then we'd be actually working within the same guidelines as what the other communities have with 3 residents for three
Correct.
EDUs and above.
Correct.
Okay, sounds good.
Would this be ready for our work session at the end of the month so that we would be able to?
We'll try very hard to get it done by then. Yes, it's going to be in Mary Claire's court, and I know we've got a bunch of stuff working for the end of the year, but we'll push it along. Kevin,
So
tell
then-
Mary. we're gonna have
So
our
then
work-
we're gonna have to not adjourn the meeting tonight in order to reopen it so that we can vote at the next meeting.
We
No,
could,
we'd still vote on it the week later, right? We don't have to have this done in the month of October.
no, yeah, we could wait and vote at the November meeting if that's
Okay, all right, okay.
good.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. Under new business, we have the civil service exam that we spoke with our chief on this, and he would like to have another candidate shovel ready for the police department.
Can I stop and ask Kevin an opinion?
Sure.
Kevin, we have an active civil service list and we have one person that is currently part-time with us that is on that list. Chris is asking that we replace the list. Can we do so since that
No.
list is valid or?
Yeah, you can. I mean, under the civil service rules, and civil service commission would know this is lists usually expire, and so you have to renew them. You
Yeah.
can renew lists, but they typically expire over a period of time. So do you know when that list was posted? I'm sure it's, I mean, I don't remember us doing a test.
We just did this.
Yeah,
we?
yeah, this is about a year and a half ago, I think.
So
All right.
I think I agree with Virginia, like, it's, I mean, we have to let the list like have its natural progression and
Yeah,
then
You
fire,
can't,
decide
right.
to renew it or not, but I mean, we can't scrap it just because we kind of want to do a new one or something.
No, so the civil service rule should provide for when the list would expire. We could take I'll have Mary Claire take a look at that. Is there a civil service solicitor or no? No, right?
No.
There's nobody on the list now. The last guy that was on the list is a part-timer now.
So what you can do, there's a process to follow. So if there's no, if the information, if the list hasn't expired, you can follow a process. I was a solicitor for the Civil Service Commission in Scranton. I know the rules are different, but generally you can then basically nullify the list because it's no longer, there's no more viable candidates. And then do a new list. But if you're telling me like the one candidate who's listed wouldn't be eligible for the appointment, that could be justify, having the list basically removed. But we'll have to look at when the list was posted and when it would expire. Okay.
I'll confirm that, email everybody tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, just let Mary Claire know when the list was posted. And then I know that we had model at some point, Virginia, we had the model civil service rules that were provided by the State Civil Service Commission. I don't know, we never put those in place, did we?
Gotta go back and check. I thought we did. I
Okay,
thought we voted
So
to
then we
adopt
would-
them.
so then I think I have the model ones here, so that would prescribe the process for it.
Okay. So,
We can revisit it next month.
Yep.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, does our mayor have any information as far as what the chief's intentions were?
No, I think he just wanted an updated list, a more updated one. That's what it was. And,
I think we're gonna end up having to give a test again. That's what I think we're gonna have to do. If the gentleman who was the last person on the list is now a part-timer, then we're gonna have to open it up for a new test.
Well, in order to post a list, you would have to have tests. You'd have to have written and oral tests in order to create a new list.
Correct.
And that's how you get your candidates through.
Yeah.
Through it's for, I'm sorry, is it for patrol officers or is it for,
Charles,
okay, so you're gonna have to have written, oral, physical agility, psychological, all of those.
Yeah.
All of those aspects of the test. And the chief is gonna have to, he's gonna have to put together what's gonna be the syllabus that they study for the test and all that. So. And then we have to identify or 3 oral examiners, all that whole process, which is a lot of work, but obviously we need it.
I know there's a question as to when this list expires, but there is time left on it. So he's really being preemptive here, trying to grow the list.
Correct.
But the one individual that's on the list now, if we were to administer another test and generate a new list, would he have to apply again, or would we be able to add to the
That's
list?
my question. I
No,
mean,
he'd have to, it's a whole new, the ranking
The list,
system.
he'd have to go through it again.
You have to go through it again. If we say that list is no longer effective.
Even though he's already working as a part-timer.
Correct.
Well, that's irrelevant, but the fact that he's on the list currently would be superseded by issuing a new test.
I think that's where the question comes into play, because he's already working as a part-timer, and we did take his name off the list in order to hire him as a part-timer. So would that be a moot point?
Still on the
No,
list.
he's on the list he's a part-timer. He took the test, he's passed the test, he's on the list.
Right,
If we were to hire right now, he's the only one on the list. So we
Correct.
would be the only one for consideration.
right. But
Until
that's what I'm saying. Would he
expires.
still then have to qualify for the next list?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Kevin said,
all right,
I
okay,
mean, because you have to do the ranking based on the testing.
okay.
So you can't rank them without them all doing the same oral and. You know, maybe there's, I don't, maybe that he won't have to undergo the. No, he would have to go under you have to have the same criteria for everybody in order to get the ranking.
So even though he's working as a part-timer, that has no bearing on
No.
He doesn't automatically get on a new list
Okay.
if he's working part-time. I mean, he's eligible for, I mean, as far as I know, I don't know the particulars, but he would be eligible. If the list is active, then he would be eligible for appointment right now. But
it. Okay,
it sounds to me like the mayor, or the chief wants to have another list, so we'll look into it.
okay.
It's expensive though, is it not? It's not just the time. It
It's
costs us
expensive, so
several thousand dollars.
the big expense. I mean, somebody's got to bear the expense, but the big expense is the written test. Because you have to have, depending
Proctor and
on-
everything.
You have to have proctors, you want independent proctors, we don't want to touch. So like, for instance, when I did it for Scranton, we had Mary Wood administer everything. So that we didn't touch the test, and then, so there was a cost with that. There's a cost of processing the written test. And then there was also, if you want to do the physical agility, the best way to do it is to hire an outside person to do that too, so that there's independent, so that we're not involved in that. That's a cost. So
The oral as well. It involves bringing in people that,
they're usually volunteers though, so. I mean, usually the 3 oral panelists are volunteers. I mean,
I think the last time we did it, Kevin, we had Lackawanna College do it.
yeah,
They had from their police program, they had people that were available to do it.
right.
we had done that in the past, but the last time they were no longer offering that service and we went through Marywood at Kevin's.
Oh, okay. All right. Mhm.
Yeah,
So. The
Well, then we need
question,
to contact Marywood again.
the question is
Yeah.
always, who bears the cost? Do the applicant, I mean, the applicants, that's the rub. An application fee so that everybody has some skin in the game, and that way. Look, you don't want to be cost prohibitive, that everybody wouldn't be, all demographics wouldn't be eligible to apply. At the same
Right.
time, there's a consideration to, if we're gonna undertake these costs, we want to make sure you're serious about this. We don't
Yep.
want to process your test if this is just like, I'm applying here, and I'm applying to Walmart, and I'm applying to,
Yeah.
wherever. So
Right.
we want to make sure that, they're serious.
They're serious, exactly.
To that point, it's a little bit unfair to the person that's on our list today to turn around and charge him again. And his time on the list is not up.
Well, that's it. If that's the case, yeah, we have to see what the case is on that.
And maybe we need to talk to the chief.
So maybe, I mean, we could,
After
maybe,
this
I mean,
His
Yeah.
timeframe and
That's-
that-
I mean,
my other
unfortunately,
question,
that's the risk
Kevin,
you take the risk you take, there's people who go for promotions year after year after year, or go for entry level year after year after year, and they don't get it. And that's unfortunate. That's the way it goes, that's part of the process,
Kevin, being on civil service in Scranton, are you finding that there are actually people applying nowadays,
not-
because the last time we did it, we only had 4 applicants.
I'm not anymore on that position, but I know that overall, there's, I just, as you probably all read in the paper, that state police have withdrawn the requirement that you have a bachelor's degree in order to be eligible to go to the academy. So in order to try, because we all know what's going on with police and the scrutiny that they're under, so,
Mhm.
yeah. I think that's, a nationwide issue right now.
I would propose that we table this until the chief is back.
I would
Yeah.
think so,
A lot of
Josh,
questions about
Well,
because
look, I mean, in the interim, we can look into it and see where we are in terms of that list and what the rules provide. And
We're not in that much of a hurry and the chief will be back next week. So I agree with Josh. I have no problem. Wait and run it by the chief and let
Brought
him.
that topic up at the end of the last meeting.
Yeah.
If you're interested.
Well, one of the things, Harry, maybe when you speak to him, when he's back, if he can find out from some of his peers who've recently done civil service tests, I'm afraid we do the same thing and we expect different outcomes and we don't get a different outcome. And in fact, our one person that's on the list today doesn't want to go through it again. And now we're in this exact same spot where we spent a bunch of money.
Yeah.
That's my fear. I would like to know.
We need more clarity.
Has there been a trend that there are more people are applying for these civil service tests?
I did not hear this, no, Josh.
now there's the opposite. I think, so one thing Scranton did, because there was a low number of candidates applying for patrol, the entry level position, was that we agreed that if you got, that you didn't have to have, or basically the city would pay for your Act 120 certification in order to encourage them to go through that, because that sometimes is
If you
cost
pass,
prohibitive
if you
for
pass
people.
the entry level test, then they would pay for the Act 120.
right. I mean, that's one thing they did to try to entice folks to want to become small police officers.
Yep.
And I don't know what the result is, but the chief could reach out to Chief Carroll and see if that was fruitful.
Well, I don't know if we can we use the ARPA funds towards that if we have people that apply? I mean, we've got money there in that ARPA fund that really the only place we put it is up at the AAJRB. I mean, if we can spend a couple $1,000s there, that might be a viable way to do it, to use the money from the ARPA.
Let me qualify. We have not used any ARPA money for the AAJRB. We
I
do
thought-
have a
I thought we used
You
that
know-
66,000 for that.
That's CDBG money.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
CDBG. That was not, yeah.
My mistake. Thank you.
We're going to talk about a project after this, but in fact, the one suggestion was Wi-Fi at the senior center, but they don't need it. Apparently the
Okay.
park already is fully Wi-Fi. So,
I saw that.
so that's a second, that's a different discussion.
Okay.
And did you say you can find out the expiration date?
I will have that information, everybody, yes.
Yeah, that would be
If
very.
there is, to
helpful.
Dave's point, if there is money that we could spend on a civil service test that's not out of our general fund where we've not budgeted for it, that would be useful to know as well. Whatever pool of money that is, if there's
Exactly.
anything that we could cover that cost with, if you can find that out for next month, that would.
If we're not tapping our budget, then, that's something that would be doable. And we
Yes.
wouldn't have to waste a lot of time to do it. Check with the chief and find the expiration, and then we can move forward. Contact Marywood or whomever may be out there doing the testing program for that now.
Well,
Okay,
we can wait another week, right?
sure.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the $45,000 COVID grant. We can move in.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. The county has COVID-specific CDBG money, 45,000, that can be used in the borough, but it's county run. That has to be spent by the end of the month, and the only applicant they have right now, other than the suggestion about the Wi-Fi, is the daycare center up at the United
Methodist
Methodist
Church.
Yes,
Oh, is that what
so,
it
but
is?
we need to officially vote on that if we're gonna allow that money to be spent there.
So this would be for a daycare, like children.
Right.
At the Methodist church. That-
Correct.
That sounds great.
It's not the church, it is the
It's
daycare.
Daycare and it's in the borough. It's in Clark.
Correct.
What do they spend? I've been in that facility. It could use some money.
Yeah.
What are they specifically gonna do with it, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let me see, I don't think
Were
I
there
don't think she said
laptops
anything
or
about it.
something?
Oh, tablets, purchasing tablets.
Oh, so the kids could
Yes.
be
Yeah.
computer literate and all that.
No,
I'll make a motion that we spend the,
Wait a second, Dave,
whatever
we're not
allotted
ready.
money to, go for the, tablets for the daycare center. So it doesn't get lost.
okay,
The
the
virtual-
senior center, that the children go there for, do they charge for the kids to go there or something like? I just want to make sure that it,
I don't know anything about the senior center and kids.
Well, hold on.
Oh, this is the
We're
Mexican
mixing-
church.
mixing
That
things
is
here.
Oh.
the church,
It's a
yeah.
daycare. It's not the church. It is a daycare that is physically located on the church property.
right, but do they charge for these kids to come every day?
Yes, there is a fee for it, yes,
It's like a nonprofit.
but it's a nonprofit, yes,
So it's not like some of these like daydreamers or
Right.
those other ones where they make money.
correct.
Right, yeah,
Oh,
that
it
was my only.
No, I
concern.
understand exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is,
To make sure that.
So it's a nonprofit and it's eligible.
and it is eligible.
And like Water County's approved them already for.
Correct,
So we know if we give them money, it will be used
correct,
for the benefit of the children.
correct.
And they're also.
Because it's in our name, they wanted our approval on it, but they've already pre-screened this application and it fits.
Okay,
Yeah.
And this is money you had stated has to be spent by the end of this month.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So it doesn't have to be spent, but we can use, if we can find a worthy cause, we can.
If it's gonna be spent,
It has.
it expires the end of this month, yes, yes. So Dave did make a motion on that.
I'll second it.
okay. On the question? All in favor? All opposed? Favors have it 6-0.
Do you need like a resolution or anything like that from us, or they could just go ahead and,
She just needed a vote.
that's it?
Okay.
Perfect.
That's all
Okay.
she asked for.
Perfect, thank you, Virginia.
Mhm.
Of course, we've already replaced Paul Murphy.
That's done.
Okay, and the next is our solicitor's report.
Sure, so. Couple items, first, with regard to the stormwater regionalization MOU. Mary Claire submitted the proposed changes, which council had discussed at the last, I guess at the work session. To Lee Steinett, who's the attorney handling the reorganization project. Lee indicated that he's generally fine with the language that we proposed. Specifically with regard to the purpose in terms of termination sections. But he has to confirm after meeting, he has rescheduled on next week on October 10th with the city. City of Scranton, that is. Since we last spoke with him, both Dunmore and Music have signed the MOU. And Dunmore signed it without any changes. Music signed it with a minor change, which he did not specify what that was. Again, we expect to hear back next week if he will formally accept our proposed changes. And then we'll be able to move forward with the MOU by our next meeting, which would be the November meeting. So any questions with regard to the stormwater reorganization MOU? Then with regard to the right turn only ordinance for Lansdowne. The ordinance is consistent with all the recommendations from the engineer's report. Bob Nagley's reports, which specifically recommended limiting both left-hand turns and through traffic between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. due to the high number of accidents that occurred during that time period. I know, Bob, you asked whether the ordinance should specifically address the enforcement. The ordinance, like all traffic ordinances, must be enforced through the traffic section of the Pennsylvania Crimes Code. So in other words, if you fail to abide by the sign of a borough or any municipality at any intersection, you would be in violation of the failure to obey traffic by device or signal provision of the Crimes Code. And there would be no specific need for us to address it in the ordinance. So that's underway to get that ordinance in place. with regard to Lansdowne.
We have a draft. If it's okay, I don't know if you guys want to make a motion to advertise it for a vote or hold it until.
I'll make a motion that we advertise it to be put on the agenda to vote.
Advertise it and we can vote
Get
at the
this thing
November
going.
meeting.
That sounds good.
Do you need a
Do we have
second?
a second?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Kathleen, on the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Favors have it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
The next is the quality.
So the next issue is the quality of life, amending the quality of life ordinance. I don't know why there was any chatter of that since I wrote the original, and I can't imagine that there would be any need for that. I think it should be treated like an amendment to the Constitution. We want 2/3 of the residents to support it.
Good one, Kevin.
In any
Well,
event,
then, if it's in here, Kevin, I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yeah.
in any event, that she's that's in draft to increase the fines. And I think in the meantime, continue to encourage all residents to reach out to the borough with their concerns. You can continue to issue quality of life tickets while the amendments is being going through its natural process, but I think that would be available for vote at the November meeting.
You want to skip the impervious surface? I'll address that after you're done, Kevin. If
Okay.
you want
And then
to,
so with
pave cut order.
with regard to the pave club ordinance, Mary Claire has a call scheduled with Lou DeMarco from IWDA next week to discuss the draft pave cut ordinance. Assuming the council would be prepared to implement this ordinance in November, it could be brought up at next, in November, and we could put it in place immediately. It becomes effective immediately. So and that's all she wrote.
Okay, actually, Kevin, I have a question, and we spoke a little bit about it, I think, at the work session last week. So this might be for Virginia, or it might be for Mary Claire. There's a piece of property that the borough owns in Woodbridge Circle in
Right.
development in Clark Summit. There's a retaining pond. I was contacted by an attorney from Oliver Price and Rhodes regarding what the borough's position is with the property, and that there were some things they wanted to do. I spoke with a resident of Woodbridge Circle who's on the homeowners association.
Right.
And he gave me some clarification exactly what the issue that the homeowners association has.
Right.
The association assess all the residents of the development a certain amount of money, and they take care of the mowing the grass and maintaining the sign. The borough owns the property, and he wanted to put the borough give them a notice that there's a substantial number of trees on the property, and the trees are dying or dead. And
Right.
he wants the borough to sort of look into, I guess, address this issue with the trees since they're the owner of the property. Virginia mentioned that, I guess, we have never really we have never assumed any care of the property, but we do have insurance on the property.
Correct. It is.
So I recall this issue. It was Dave Parker. They met with, Dave Parker was a resident.
This guy lives next door, I believe, to the.
Yeah, Dave Parker. He's actually the former, he's worked for PennDOT,
Illinois.
former director of public works for Scranton. So this would be considered a minor problem when he was in that position. But in any event, my understanding was, yes, there at the base of Woodbridge Circle, there's a parcel that the city or that the borough owns. We held on to it when development was taking place, and I understand that he had raised concerns with some of the condition of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this property, Virginia, was important to us because of we needed a certain amount of impervious soil or impervious land under our.
You needed the detention basin.
pond. Right.
Retention pond.
Right.
Detention pond. The trees that we're referring to are a section of the land that's never been developed.
Right.
So it's, for all intents and purposes, it's a wooded section of the lot, which it's not our policy to then start taking down trees on a property such as that, when actually the trees serve the purpose of assisting with the detention basin. So,
But the rub is we own the property, and if something happened to the trees, that we may be liable or something if they fell or they did any damage to anybody's property or person.
So Bob, they retain counsel on this issue?
Yeah, I spoke with an attorney, he brought it up, but I was contacted by a resident about it, so.
I wonder
they
why,
actually-
what would be the basis of legal action on this? I mean, we could talk about an executive session if you want, but I don't, you know. what
I'm
would
not
it
sure
be?
they're looking for litigation. I think they're just kind of wanting to let us know and see if there's anything the borough can do to deal with these trees, since we do own the property.
Are they the ash trees? I remember at one point, didn't we have money that we got for taking down ash trees?
no, we had tried to find money for it, but no, we never got any.
Nothing available.
Right, so was a major problem, I know.
I mean, we can look into it further. I don't mean to spring it on everybody today. You know, we have, they're very relaxed about it, but they just want us, they want us to kind of move forward with us and see what the borough wants to do and see how we can help them.
Would
Bob,
we have any?
Bob, exactly what is it that they want?
I think they're concerned about the trees, and I don't think they feel they've maintained the property and they've maintained the sign, but I don't think they want to get involved with the trees since we own the property. And I don't know if it's based on the fact that they just don't want to take down trees that aren't theirs, or it's a heavy expense that they're not ready to pay. But it's something they're concerned about with the trees and potential for damage to, you know, just other people in the.
Is it that much of an issue that our DPW can't go up there and cut the trees down that they're addressing and get rid of the trees and then?
There's
we're
two.
okay?
First of all, our guys cannot handle trees that size.
Oh,
And they're already
they're
booked
big
through the,
trees?
huh?
They're
yeah.
big trees? They're not like
Yes.
saplings or
This is-
anything?
No, this is a wooded lot. This is.
Oh, okay. All right.
The other thing is I don't want to, you know, I'm hesitant to set precedent. We have
Yep.
other sections of wooded areas such as Lewis Lane Park that we do
Yeah.
not maintain the trees in.
Right. Okay.
Is-
All right,
is there any actual liability here?
I didn't know, Bob, if we
Because-
were talking about small saplings or like maybe medium-sized trees that our guys could just go up and go in and cut down and then we'd be over it. But I'm sorry, Josh, go ahead.
I'm just curious if, you know, is there an actual liability? Is a tree gonna fall on somebody's house or in somebody's yard?
I don't
is
think
there
so.
any risk of us being liable?
I would
for that?
defer to Kevin on that, but if it's a tree on our property and we don't maintain it and it caused damage, I would think that we could be negligent. But that would be,
I mean, I don't know if that would fall into one of the exceptions to sovereign immunity. You know, a tree falls down. Because, you know, the borough has, but I mean, if we want a legal opinion on that, we could draft one, but it's, you know, the borough as a municipality has certain sovereign immunity protections that a private landowner wouldn't have. And I don't know off the top of my head of, you know, if a tree is within one of the, in other words, there's only enumerated exceptions under the sovereign immunity statute where you can sue a borough. You know, you can't sue a borough if you have flat tire because of your road. So I don't know that offhand, but we could look at that. I mean, my recollection is if this is at the base of Woodbridge Circle on the left-hand side as you're going up.
Yeah.
Then I mean, I don't see it. I don't recall that being like a major issue, but because there's no like people walking by.
I'll get some pictures and I'll meet with Mary Claire about this.
Okay.
And then we can make a presentation to council.
If it's purely aesthetic, they just don't like the way these trees look.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
That's true.
And that sign, it's where the sign's located, right, Virginia?
Yeah, but it's in the back of the lot.
Oh, okay. I know exactly where, yeah, I think I don't know, I recall this issue. An issue there before.
Yes.
Exactly.
The, with regard to the impervious surface, this is something that I would like to meet with Mary Claire on. I had mentioned it earlier. I've done a lot of research.
Yeah.
Right now, impervious surface is pretty much everything that's permanent. But what happens when you permanently cover your lot with temporary structures? You know, that's kind of bypassing the impervious surface. For all intents and purposes, the properties are not performing the way they should. And people are getting away with it. So if somebody wanted to put a shed on their property, we'd say no, but if they throw tarps over that same area and leave them there for years on end, they're getting away with it. And I kind of feel like that needs to be addressed. And I've been researching our current ordinance. And I don't think that there's any way that we can. I think that it's easy for us to consider anything that is sitting there on any length of time, an accessory structure. So if somebody has a trailer on their property, it's an accessory structure. If it's there while they're moving things around, it's one thing. But when it's just parked there and left there for months on end, it's an accessory structure. When you have 10 cars on your lot and they're always on your lot, they're never leaving the lot. They're, for all intents and purposes, that's an accessory structure. It's a building of sorts that is sitting on land. It's as movable as what's the word on?
Winnebago,
A trailer.
Yeah, one of those. It's also a shed,
RV.
even a shed. Sheds are, you can lift up and move around with equipment. So why should, I think that I would like to specify, do an amendment to our ordinance that specifically addresses that. And I think that would satisfy the ability to control some properties that are getting out of hand that right now we don't have anything that we could really go to court with.
So you do want to amend the zoning ordinance to the definition of impervious surface and then tighten up the definition for
Correct.
accessory structure.
So I think I'm ready to move forward with this with Mary Claire if
Where
everyone's.
are we with SAPA though? Has Dunmore, they approved it or are they still?
I haven't heard it. Jerry, last you heard, you said that they were definitely going to vote on it and they were
Right.
definitely going for it,
And they're
but
still waiting to hear.
yeah.
But Dunmore said they're in favor of it now, but they still haven't done the vote, so.
Right. Right.
It's one link after.
And regardless, this is still, this clarification can still be effective with the SAPA ordinance. It's still a definition.
Well, I mean, what would happen is this, we'd have the ordinance approved, then we have to send it back to the planning commission. They would have to look over everything if we're gonna change it. I think they have to make recommendations and reviews.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to look into it, I mean, Mary Claire, I would just be very careful with the definitions and look to see what the Commonwealth Court has in the suit.
That's why I want to get with
I
Mary
think
Claire
having
now.
legal-
I've done my research now. I have something for her. to
Have
look-
a legal opinion on.
Exactly.
Virginia, do you want a motion on this?
No, I just wanted to update you that I am at the point now where I'm ready to start talking to Mary Claire about it. I actually have the road for it.
Is this,
Okay.
just out of curiosity, is this in the context of the, the flooding event that we had? And then it really is an impervious surface issue in that regard, or is this really another way to look at a quality of life issue?
Yeah, it sounds like we're quality of life.
Yes.
Oh.
Are most scenarios.
I think it's a little bit of both, Josh.
It's, we do have a property that has, I mean, we require people that have driveways and we
Right.
require permits for driveways. And then we calculate the impervious surface of the driveway
Right.
to determine whether we'd approve it or not. So somebody that just parks cars all the way around the
Okay.
property without a permit is really bypassing that ordinance. Additionally, with vehicles, they're supposed to have a curb cut access, which is a driveway.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you can hop the curb anywhere you want, especially when you're talking like a corner property where
Right.
you could be affecting the visibility of other vehicles. But in addition, we have a property that literally the entire backyard is just covered in tarps, and it has been for a long period of time. And the neighbors are complaining they don't like the way it looks, but personally, that had to contribute to the flooding. That had to have affected it. There's no way that it didn't, because that was a whole lot of area that wasn't able to saturate any rate.
And there's nothing we can do to help those neighbors with water, flowing onto their property that's not getting soaked up. in the
No,
grass.
right now, something like that is really neighbor to neighbor. If a neighbor feels that they're being impacted by their neighbor's water, it's between them. But this is a way that we would be able to help give some more controls
That's why we have impervious surface requirements in the first place.
Exactly, exactly. So
Exactly.
the thing is, impervious surface is incredibly important. So why would we not address it at this level as well? And then there's the additional benefit that it also satisfies other issues.
Right.
So, I mean, we keep that all in mind when we're ready to vote on forward, moving it forward or not, but I do feel that we should at least look at it. Okay.
I was just gonna throw in 2 more cents, and like Mr. What is that, the guy, Mr. Woodard or something, bringing up something. Wasn't this an issue years ago, Jerry, regarding the street up there behind the church with the silver maple trees? And like, there was an issue regarding whether we should or should not get involved in cutting them down.
Exactly,
And we didn't.
yeah.
It's something I got left in my body as good as my memory. It was an issue like many years ago,
Yeah.
about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
And it was on Nelson Street.
right,
Yeah.
right,
It becomes a concern too with all the paper alleys.
exactly, that's another.
And then-
opening the door.
Well, they were
Yeah.
dying and the people wanted them down. I remember that. And it was a question, are we gonna start putting on trees?
Yes.
That was the whole purpose of passing the shade tree ordinance, was the fact that we were in 2005. So almost 20 years ago, we had over 10,000 a year being spent on tree maintenance. You know, and that was just going up and down the roads, and that was not nearly enough. And at this point, that 10,000 could easily be 100,000 when you consider all the land in the borough that we own. And I mean, we now have the Marion Street property, it's wooded. If the
Right,
tree comes down, well, if the tree comes down in the woods, it comes down.
right,
But, you know, once we start setting a precedent, we have to live with it. So I want to make sure that if there's a legal basis to do it, let's do it. But if there's not, let's not set precedent because.
Well, I mean, if we can't afford to do it, what the question is it a dangerous condition? And if it is, then you have to put up, trespassing signs, if that's what it's gonna come to, so that people know.
I mean,
to-
honestly, if it's our land and we could just put a fence up there around it and say no trespassing.
Right.
That's not what they want. But that is an option to protect us.
even if we just put no trespassing signs? Without.
We could even do that. I don't think that's what they want though, because I don't think they'd appreciate the signs being around.
But if we felt that it was not a liability on the borough.
Right. Well, this is where, I'll get with Mary Claire.
This is more cosmetic, really.
Yeah, that's what we're
I
wanting.
what it sounds like.
believe in the past, it basically was coming off as mostly cosmetic. So I don't want us to put words in their mouth. They're saying safety and we have to legitimately research the safety.
And they can
I
always,
just don't wanna-
they can always come to a meeting and for public
Right.
comment. explain exactly what they're looking
Yes.
I agree with that too. Okay, well. I guess that's all for our solicitor's report.
That's all she wrote,
Okay, and.
literally.
Yeah, I was gonna say literally.
And just one final question for you, Kevin. Do we make the check payable to you?
No, I never seen it. It doesn't matter who it's signed out to. I never see the money. So,
I knew it's coming.
Okay, but thank you for pitch hitting tonight. You
no
did-
problem. My pleasure.
Okay. under
Last guy in the
correspondence-
office
Only man in the office, right?
on Wyoming Avenue down there.
Under correspondence, no correspondence. Did any council members have any questions at all? I just didn't know if anybody was aware of the fact that the state is going to be replacing the bridge, the Parker Memorial Bridge coming into Clark Summit next
From
year.
Glenburn, yeah.
And that's actually in the Clark Summit
Yes.
district and,
Actually, one half of it is in Clark Summit.
oh, is
I
that?
think it's the southbound lane is ours and the northbound lane is actually South Abs.
Okay, it's at
Yeah.
that much of an angle, right?
Yeah.
But my thought on this too is they're gonna have to reroute traffic coming through, which our biggest complaint is all the truck traffic and the traffic that we get in bumper to bumper at all times. Where would they be rerouting this traffic?
I'm sorry, and I can reread the letter that came from the state, but I believe that they were gonna leave one lane open at any given time. So not
Oh.
rerouting the traffic, but it doesn't matter. It's still gonna have a terrible
That's gonna
impact.
be a bigger impact.
Right. We're
Okay.
gonna have traffic all the way through downtown. Hey, maybe people will stop and shop.
But also I was thinking that especially the trucking company, they then could get off and get on at Waverly there and go on 81 or.
With them locked.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna look for a better way than tying up their trucks for many hours probably coming through, you know. That's my hopes that they decide how to reroute the trucks so that we won't have that.
That's a
And,
good thought.
you know, that's my thought that hopefully they would be doing that, but we'll have to wait next year and see what happens
Yeah.
there.
When is this supposed to take place, Jerry?
Next year,
And what are they gonna do? Replace the entire bridge?
well, yeah.
Repair, I think.
It's a major
Major
repair, not a
repair, yeah.
replacement, as far
Oh,
as I
wow.
understand.
Most
Oh, yeah.
importantly, will the fencing be painted Abington blue? Because it'll be a big mistake if they don't.
Public comments is open online, Kevin.
You're a winder-upper, Kevin. Ronnie.
Okay.
Ronnie.
We good to adjourn?
Oh, wait, technically Jerry has one more thing she has to report.
Of the executive session.
Yeah, we've had them prior, during, or so.
Hit it, Ron.
Fabulous, I motion we adjourn.
None.
All right, and it's 8:03.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good.
It's always
Take
good.
care.
Thank you
Good
all.
seeing you.
Good seeing you all. Do
Good
well.
night, Good night, Kevin. Good to see you.
Behave yourselves on Halloween.